Hey guys, welcome back to another video. And today we're doing something a little bit different. We're actually doing a podcast. I'm here with two of my really good friends, and I'll just have you guys go ahead and introduce yourself for the podcast.
What's up, guys? I'm Nate. I've known Ryan for a little bit. We kind of talk about movies like this pretty often, and figured we talk about it so often. Why not start a podcast for it?
Yeah, so I'm Noah. I've also known these two guys for a few years now, and I've been interested in film for quite a while, and very excited to talk about it on this podcast.
Yeah, so Nate, I'm gonna go ahead and let you kind of take the reins of this episode since this was a movie you did recommend. And what was that movie for today?
Yeah. So today's movie. So this is a movie I really enjoy. It's probably my second favorite. It's definitely in my top three, but I'm gonna put it at two right now. My second favorite World War II movie, which is Fury, starring Brad Pitt and Logan Lerman. And then you also got John Bernthal, Shia LaBeouf, and Michael Pena in there. Overall, like I know this is kind of like a basic kind of World War II story, but I really enjoy it. I really love a lot of the dialogue, a lot of the scene choices. I thought the casting was great, which I'll kind of get into here. So we got Brad Pitt, who played War Daddy, who is like he's kind of this like brash, he's gritty. He's been in the war for years at this point. He's the leader of this like tank crew that they have. And like early on in the movie, you get to see these early signs of some kind of PTSD going on because in that first scene of the movie, we see his assistant driver dead, and that kind of gets going. They kind of get into that a little bit more as the movie progresses, and he tries really hard to kind of prepare Logan Lerman's character Norman for this harsh reality of what being at war is. But the difference, like the kind of what's the word I'm looking for here? The kind of uh, get into Michael Pena in a bit. Him and Michael Pena kind of try to do the same thing at the beginning of the movie, but Michael Pena kind of like eases him into a little bit more, like right before they
Mhm.
get into the first major battle of the movie. Whereas Brad Pitt, War Daddy, he's kind of like he's just balls to the wall. Trying to be trial by fire here. But
Mhm.
I do like how, like in this movie, he kind of becomes more compassionate towards the end. We see that a little bit later in some scenes we'll get into. And honestly, I think Brad Pitt was like a really good casting choice for this. This movie
Mhm.
came out in 2014. We saw him in 2009 in Glorious Bastards, again, in another World War II movie. But he plays
Mhm.
this kind of like intense, get no shits given. Like he plays this character very well. Like he is able to flip that switch to become like this leader that of like this tank crew. I think he really makes you believe it. Like he is at war, and it kind of shows like with the way his character looks. He's dirty. He's gritty. His clothes are battered up. And then about 20 minutes into this movie, we see Norman, played by Logan Lerman, who's this scared. He's a man of God, and he's kind of struggling with this dilemma of saving and fighting for the lives of this Fury crew or like his religious morals. And most of that comes from the fact that he wasn't really supposed to be there in the first place. Like he was supposed to
Mhm.
be typing up something. Like he was not trained on a gun. He didn't know how to like he knew how to shoot because he was in the army, but he didn't know how to.
Mhm.
He wasn't a take operator. And then
He
we get some
didn't
other
see combat.
characters. Yeah, so like if you got something you want to say about it, like go by all means go ahead. I kind of like to yap about these things.
I know. I was just saying that like he knew how to shoot a gun, but he hadn't seen combat, and that's like they're two very different
Yes,
things.
yes. So and then there's three other characters that are in this Fury crew. Two of them I feel like aren't super important. Like they're important, but they're kind of more in the background. Well, so I'm going to talk about Shia LaBeouf's character, uh, Bible, who I kind of saw as like he's a fallen man of God. Like he's like his like he still believes like he believes he's doing the right thing. He's going to heaven. Like he shows his faith. Like he prays. Like he encourages Norman when he finds out about his faith. And like you kind of see it kind of towards like right when Norman joins the crew. Like he's trying to save like what he calls saving his crewmates from hell. And like they're kind of
Mhm.
like playing into it. They're like, oh yeah, blah blah blah. And yet at the same time, when push comes to shove, he'll play the judge, jury, and executioner, which like I kind of see it as like he's on a path of revenge based off like what he's seen in this war. Shia LaBeouf, I think he plays that very well. Like he is very convincing in the role. We last saw him, I believe, like Transformers was kind of like the last thing I remember him being in before Fury. He hasn't been
Was
in much, and
he
like
was he in Disturbia before or after Transformers? I can't remember because I've seen him in that.
I think they were around the same time.
Yeah, it feels like 2007. Like it feels like same time Transformers 1 came out. That movie came out, I think.
Yeah, it's right around like the 2008, 2009 kind of time frame, like way before this movie came out. And then like he had the two sequels that came out, and then he kind of came right into Fury, and like we saw him as this like goofy, like awkward guy who like gets the girl in the end, like your typical kind of like coming of age story, and like we see him playing this like this man of God who's fallen from his morals, and he's here to kill, and he doesn't care who gets in his way. And like I think like from seeing like I think this role really showed Shia LaBeouf's range as an actor. And I think overall he played it very well. Like I think he is probably the most well casted actor in this movie. Like
I
Brad Pitt's.
remember hearing. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I remember hearing that when they were filming for Fury, you know how his character's missing a tooth. Didn't he like actually take out his tooth?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. He is a method actor. It would not surprise me at all. But which you know, like that's why I think I think the best casted. Like Brad Pitt's obviously great. I thought Logan Lerman played that scared, timid little kid role. Like not kid, but in comparison to the rest of the crew, he's a kid.
Yeah.
I think he played that like scared little kid role very well. And then like we have John Bernthal as Grady, who like he's kind of just like dim-witted. He's aggressive. He's the pseudo mechanic of the tank. And
He's just playing John Bernthal.
Yeah, I mean he kind of he kind of is a rival to Norman. Like he bullies him whenever he gets the chance. And like there's this one scene at the end that I thought was really well done, which we'll get into a little bit later. But like pretty much throughout the whole movie, he's kind of just a bully to Norman. Like he's just not. He's just there. He's just there to kind of create tension with the crew, which like again, like I think John Bernthal like played that well. Like I don't know much of what went on set, but like I wouldn't be surprised if he was like actually causing tension between the actors, so that there was some real kind of like hardship, like there was some real like animosity between the actors, which like
that sounds like something he would do.
No, I mean like maybe like, and it kind of makes me think of like if you ever seen that Will Smith interview where they're talking about that scene in Bad Boys with Reggie, where like him and Martin Lawrence were kind of like arguing, trying to scare him beforehand because he wasn't really an actor.
They're just trying to shit on him the whole time.
So like I wouldn't be surprised if that's kind of like what's going on here. Like he's trying to like create false tension just to make the acting more authentic.
Yeah.
And then we've got Michael Pena, who is kind of, I think, the most forgettable character in the movie.
Bro, I do not remember a single thing he did.
I mean, yeah, he's for the most part like when they're doing the job, when they're like when stuff needs to get done, like he is the most level-headed one. Like Brad Pitt's character War Daddy, like he is level-headed, but like he's intense, whereas Michael Pena, he's more like that. He's kind of a little bit more mellow. Like he tries to ease Norman by befriending him, and like tries to ease him into the fact of like, hey, you're at war, you have to kill people. And like for the majority of the film, I feel like he kind of just serves as this like the comedic relief towards the crew, and towards both the audience and the crew of the tank. That he's kind of just like, yes, we're at war, but we can still have a little bit of fun here.
He's just playing an edgier version of his character from Ant-Man.
Yeah, I mean that's a perfect way. That's a perfect way to put it. But yeah, that's pretty much all my thoughts I have on the casting. I don't know what you guys have to say, but I think Like overall, I
I'm
think the casting choices were very well done. I think everybody plays their character very well, and I think like overall, this is probably one of the best casting choices I could have seen when I saw when this movie came out.
Mhm. You know who I forgot was in this movie? Jason Isaacs.
I could not tell you where he is.
He's one of the. I think he's one of the Nazis or something that gets shot. But I'm looking at the cast and he's in this movie.
There's a lot of Nazis that get shot.
Yeah, to be completely honest, I could not tell you the single point where he comes.
He's actually all of the Nazis, so they're just all him.
But
No.
yeah, that's my thoughts on the casting. Noah, if you want to take it over from here, to kind of get into what you thought of everybody.
Yeah, I think you covered everything mostly here. I think Logan Lerman really convincing as Norman, where he portrays this kid. He's got a scare and Warren doesn't want to betray his morals, religious morals, and all that. And Brad Pitt, really great as always. One of my favorite actors. And Shia LaBeouf. That's
Brad
probably
Pitt just doing Brad Pitt things.
Yep, exactly. Just doing his thing. It's great. Shia LaBeouf, fantastic performance as Bible. That was probably my favorite character. And John Bernthal, also. I mean, this guy is. Doesn't really have many redeeming qualities about him, and he's not a very nice person. Let's put it like that. But I think he plays that very convincingly. And then Michael Pena, I think he's kind of just there, in all honesty. But I mean, it wasn't a bad performance, but his character, I can't remember much about him, and I watched the movie last night, so that kind of tells you all you need to know.
I watched this movie like an hour ago, and I also can't remember anything he did except the time he was wearing a top hat. So
I don't even remember that.
But before I get into what I want to say about the cast, I did have one point to make about the director. It's nuts that David Ayer went from making this movie to his next movie that came out was Suicide Squad.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot to mention that. Yeah,
I'm
bro.
kind
Just
of
that
a
180.
little
Bro
I'm
makes
kind of a
this
little
movie.
upset that I didn't say anything about the director because he directed this movie phenomenally.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
did.
Direction was fantastic.
I think he used up all his like skill for this movie, and then he just Suicide Squad is what happened afterwards.
Bro left it all out there, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm done. Let me go make this Suicide Squad movie or whatever."
This was his magnum
He's like,
opus.
Yep.
he's like,
He
shit.
fell
I gotta
off.
work with. He's like, shit. I gotta work with Jared Leto now. I gotta use all my skill out here.
Well, yeah. I mean, even after that, like his filmography isn't that impressive. So it goes Fury, and then he has that movie Bright with Will Smith in it.
Oh, is that the movie where he's like a cop with
so
like the
bad,
troll
bro.
or whatever?
Yep, and then he has Birds of Prey, which is it's all right.
Oh right, it's fun.
It's a fun little adventure. Ewan McGregor was great in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
He
Didn't he do
has
that Beekeeper movie
he
that
did
came out this year?
Yep, he did The Beekeeper, and that's
Mm-hmm.
pretty much it. So I'm not so okay. So here's so I'm looking at his producer credits, not his director credits. So I'm kind of an idiot there. So he goes Fury, then he does Suicide Squad, then he does some music videos. Then he does Bright, and then he does The Beekeeper. And then there's a TV series called Deputy in there, which I haven't seen.
That's crazy. He had two of the craziest misses I've ever seen with Bright and Suicide Squad. That's nuts.
Those two movies back to back is insane. I'm not gonna lie. If I were him, I'd retire after that. I'd just be like, "Yeah, I don't got it anymore. I'm done."
Yeah,
I'm cooked.
This is peak. It's
Celtic
just been
Shadow.
downhill from there.
Well, I mean, he was a writer on Training Day apparently, so it's not like he doesn't have talent.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can see the talent in this movie. Like, he's got talent.
Yeah. Like,
well,
I mean,
the
rest of his filmography. Maybe it was just the star-studded cast that we have here. Maybe like none of it was him. It was just the fact that he had Brad Pitt, John Bernthal, Shia LaBeouf, Michael Pena, and Logan Lerman all together. Like maybe that's what made this movie so great instead of his direction. Like I don't want to discredit him because I'm sure he was a pretty integral part in this movie.
Yeah, but I mean, Suicide Squad.
Just some food for thought.
Suicide Squad also has a good cast, and have you seen that movie? Like,
That is true. That is true.
I wish I never saw that movie.
But yeah, Ryan, if you want to kind of take over here with the casting, I know we kind of said pretty much a lot about what's been going on, but by all means, if you have any other extra thoughts, I would love to hear them.
my biggest point is, I know we talked about this before we started rolling for a minute while we were kind of going through how we're gonna organize this whole thing. But Logan Lerman pretty much went from his I know he's in 310 to Yuma, but he was like a child actor in that one. But his
Right.
three biggest movies before this point were Percy Jackson 1, Perks of Being a Wallflower, and then the god awful Percy Jackson 2. Um, and
Yeah.
then he goes and does a war movie right after that, and it's just like such a big what am I trying to say? Like such a diverse filmography going on there.
Yeah, it was a very big leap as an actor to go from like I wouldn't say Percy Jackson were they were kids movies, but they weren't meant for a more mature audience. And then Perks of Being a Wallflower is meh. I'm not a huge fan of it personally, but like I still think his performance in it was great. And then he kind of goes right. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It has Ezra Miller in it though, so it's completely irredeemable to me.
That is true. That is true. Terrible movie. But then he comes to Fury, which is this gritty, dark, gory, like it's a war movie. Like it, I would kind of compare it in terms of like Saving Private Ryan. I wouldn't compare it to, because granted, this it has been quite a long time since I've rewatched Saving Private Ryan, but I don't remember there being like throughout the whole movie that much like blood, that much death. I
It's
would
just in
compare it
like
more
the
to
opening.
Yeah, the opening D-Day scene where the majority of it is. Like it's still there throughout the movie, but this movie, I would compare it more to like a Hacksaw Ridge or I mean, yeah, I think Hacksaw Ridge is kind of like the best overall comparison for it. Which again, another one of my favorite movies in general, let alone World War II movie. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for jumping on you there. I know this is your kind of time.
It's okay. I think I'll forgive you. But this movie, the movie I'm comparing it to right now is a much worse film. Don't get me wrong, but this movie kind of reminds me of like Dunkirk a little bit, just the way it's shot.
Ooh,
Dunkirk is a much worse movie.
I actually really like that comparison.
But you can tell Dunkirk definitely took influences from this movie. And then another thing,
now that you mention it, yes, I absolutely see it.
Yeah. I think another thing about the casting is they're all great. John Bernthal is literally just playing himself. That's what I imagine he acts like in his day-to-day life. And then Shia LaBeouf. Shia LaBeouf is a guy, I know he's had a lot of controversy in his
Shia LaBeouf
career.
is indeed a guy.
Yeah, he is a guy. But Shia LaBeouf's a guy I wish we saw more of. I wish he was in more movies. I know he was
especially
in
yes, after this role, especially like if he can play more characters like this, I think he could make like okay movies, great movies.
I can't even think about the last movie he was in. There was like that fucking Peanut Butter Falcon movie he was in, where he was like taking care of an autistic kid. That's the last movie
look it
I
up.
remember.
While we're talking about him, I'm gonna let you continue, and I'm gonna look it up real quick.
Because Shia LaBeouf, he is actually in he's in probably my favorite thriller movie of all time. I mentioned it earlier. He's in Disturbia. And then he went from Disturbia to Transformers to this. And just seeing him do pretty much nothing after this is crazy to me.
I mean, yeah, he really after Fury, he really hasn't done much. He was in some music videos as like a cameo. He did American Honey, which I haven't seen, so I can't speak much on it. It's rated pretty highly on IMDb, so I'm assuming many people like it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
He was in The Peanut Butter Falcon.
That's a good movie. I've seen that one.
He was in and that's pretty much it. He hasn't really been in a lot.
He was actually, I remember this. He was supposed to be in that what was that really shitty Harry Styles movie with Florence Pugh in it? Don't Worry,
that's
Darling.
yes.
He was supposed to be in that.
hot take here. I actually really enjoy that movie.
I don't know why.
But I'll digress. I'll back off.
Maybe we'll make that a future episode. Hopefully not, but maybe we will.
Hopefully not. I've never seen it.
Yeah, pretty much that was all of my John Bernthal. He's an asshole in this movie, but he's really good at being an asshole. Probably because he's just playing himself. But he did a really good job in this movie. Like, I don't think there was a single performance that was bad.
No, I agree with that
Yeah,
take.
no, definitely not.
I think everybody
And
like there were some
Mhm.
characters that I feel like were less important, but like they were still like their performances were still like Michael Pena. I feel like is probably the least important character in the movie. Like, I
for
mean,
sure.
I don't really know how anyone can argue just because of the fact that I literally cannot remember his character's name. And I have a page of notes here in front of me.
I think it's
fair,
Gordo or something.
I didn't really remember many of the characters' names, but it really was only Norman I really remembered, honestly.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, that's fair. Like, he is the main character.
Yeah, I kind of just thought of like the actors when I was referring to the characters in my notes.
Mm-hmm. I thought about their call signs for every single one of them except John Bernthal.
Yeah, we will not be saying his call sign on the pod.
Yeah, no.
That's for the Patreon exclusive podcast.
There's not a Patreon exclusive.
But yeah, I feel like even though Michael Pena's character was kind of like less important to the overall plot of the movie, like I still think his performance was great. John Bernthal, I feel like was less like more important than Michael Pena, but still less important than what I'm calling the main three, and Brad Pitt, Logan Lerman, and Shia LaBeouf. But his performance was still great. And then of course I've already sung my praises to Shia LaBeouf, Logan Lerman, and Brad Pitt. There's not much more I can say about their performances.
Has Logan Lerman, I know this is off topic again. Sorry, I'm great at getting off topic. Has he been in anything recently? I know he's in Bullet Train, but I can't think of anything else he's been in.
He was in no, not really. I mean, he did Fury. He did some voice work for looks like just a kids animated show. And then he was in a TV series called Hunters, which I haven't seen, and then a mini series called We Were the Lucky Ones, excuse me. And then of course Bullet Train.
Yeah, but he's in that movie for like probably 4 minutes.
Yeah, wait, I don't even remember him in Bullet Train. I'm trying to think.
He played the son.
All right. Incoming spoilers for Bullet Train. If you haven't seen the movie, skip ahead like a minute. He's the guy.
Well, hold on, whoa. I have not seen Bullet Train.
All right. Okay.
Well,
how do you know who he is then?
Because I'm looking at the IMDb.
No, yeah, he looked it up.
I'm looking at the IMDb. Who has that character name listed?
Okay. No, I'll just text you who he is.
All right.
But while we're not spoiling movies, does anyone else have any like final thoughts here on the cast?
I don't think so. I think we've bullied Michael Pena enough to go into the next section.
Hey, he had a good performance. It's really more so just the writing
he just wasn't important.
It's also really hard to make 6 characters important. It's really hard to do that.
And that's not his fault. Like with what he was given to work with, he gave a very great performance.
Yeah,
whether or not it was just his character in Ant-Man is irrelevant.
It's like all the characters are all well acted and stuff. My issue is gonna come more with the writing, which we can get into later. So yeah,
maybe his character in Fury committed some war crimes, and that's why he was arrested in Ant-Man.
I don't think he would have been let out for war crimes. He would have just been let out casually.
All right,
they just
we're gonna release this dude who had war crimes and stuff.
So
he's also like 60 years older.
Yeah, that movie takes place in the 2020s.
Nah, they just froze him like Captain America.
I mean, the third one does. I believe he's in the third one.
Yeah, I guess so.
Granted, I
Okay,
have not seen the
so
third Ant-Man film since it came out, and I don't plan on watching it again.
Yeah. I'm never watching that film again. Actually, unless we somehow do an episode where we randomly just rant about how
You know
bad
what?
it is.
I don't even.
we'll do it.
I don't think it even deserves to be called a film. That's just a movie.
That's just 2 hours of my life I'm never getting back.
I don't want to get too
Okay.
much into it, but if you take two characters out of that movie, it's a substantially better movie.
Yeah, we'll get into that if we ever do an episode, which I'm really
Yeah.
praying we don't.
We probably won't. We definitely won't. 100% won't.
Unless we're getting a bunch of people saying, "Hey, you guys should really do this episode." I'm like, all right, I guess we're doing Ant-Man.
Please do
Nah, we
Ant-Man
still won't do it.
Quantumania.
All right, but
Said nobody
yeah,
ever.
so we've kind of gone as much in depth into the casting choices as we can. I'd like to kind of loop in cinematography or I guess visuals, not cinematography, because there's kind of a little bit of a misunderstanding on my part there. I have a
just
lot
We
of
can
stuff.
talk about both.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't really have a lot of notes about cinematography, so I'll kind of just piggyback off of what you guys say as it jogs my memory.
Okay.
By all means, one of you guys can take lead here.
Yeah, Noah, do you want to hit it first, and then I'll say what I gotta
Just
say?
for cinematography. Yeah, I thought there was a lot of nice standout shots here, especially the opening shot. I really love it after we cut from like kind of the audio to begin the film or whatever, and then an opening shot with the dude walking over like the ground and stuff. I thought that was a really cool shot, and overall, there's a lot of great lighting. I mean, it's a really dark film, and it really just emphasizes the feeling you have when watching it, and it adds so much to the story there with how dark and gritty this is. And it's a pretty depressing movie, and the cinematography is pretty depressing. There's a lot of really nice angles, some nice establishing shots here, some decent ways they move the camera and all that, and the cinematography just kept me engaged throughout the entire film. And a standout was in the whole final battle, where we kind of get like the lighting from the fire, so you get orange, and there's kind of like the mist from like the smoke and all that around. And I thought that was just a standout visual, and that's my favorite scene in the entire film. And we can get to more into that later. And just overall, I thought the cinematography was just very standout, and really, honestly, probably my favorite part of the film.
Yeah, I think
Right.
the coolest cinematography for the whole movie was it, like you said, that opening scene. So there's this
hmm
part where one of the soldiers is riding, I forget who it is, but he's riding a white horse, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can see throughout that scene the horse is progressively like getting dirtier. And I
Yeah,
kind of took that personally as I'm like, oh, even like the purest and whitest like things, like the good things, they are getting like tainted and destroyed by this war as it goes on.
yeah.
So I'm gonna piggyback off that, but I have some really big thoughts on like the overall dirtiness of things throughout the film. But I'll get into that a little bit later. Overall, I have to agree with Noah here. Like the lighting of the movie just really portrays that depressing, like war, like the overall message of the film is like war is horrible, obviously, but there's also the subliminal message of like even the purest can be corrupted, which I think Norman represents purity, and I think
Yeah.
in contrast we have War Daddy, which kind of represents the grittiness of like what like so the way I see it in my own like kind of headcanon of like what happened before Fury is like War Daddy was kind of like this Norman type who became War Daddy, whereas Norman is kind of like reminds him of like a younger him, which is why I kind of feel like this like father son dynamic portrays really well. But like I said, we'll
Yeah.
get into like the real details of that. Like a standout visual for me, I have two actually. So the first one is like not it's right after that first scene where Grady's working on the tank and like War Daddy's kicking them and they're all like arguing with each other. It's right after that they get back to the base camp and Norman joins the crew and like he gets handed a bucket. I don't remember exactly who gives it to him. One of the Fury crews like you got to clean up your station and you get that shot of who he's replacing. You just see like his skin on the tank wall.
Oh yeah, I forgot about
Yeah,
that scene.
that was a powerful visual. That just shows like because it's within like it's one of the first few scenes, and it kind of just like establishes that this is not going to be a fun movie at all. And
This
it's
is
not
not
going to
your
shy away.
dad.
Yeah, it's not going to shy away from showing the horrors of war, which I really like.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that visual. Also, and this kind of like reminded me a little bit of Star Wars when I was rewatching it last night. The visuals of like the tracer bullets on the German tanks or and weapons versus the Americans. And
Yeah.
you kind of get that like that green kind of like and like this also like and I'll sing my praises to George Lucas here for a minute, where it's like in Return of the Jedi, green was supposed to be like that color to represent Luke as like, oh, is he really is he turning to the dark side? Is he staying on the light side? Whereas
Yep.
red clearly is like, this is the dark side. So I really liked that visual of it being like, do the Americans even think they're on the right side here? Because I know there is some kind of like conflict in between them, especially with Norman's character.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that's more plot based, and we'll kind of get into that in a little bit. There is also, and this is kind of leading into plot, so I guess we'll kind of go there next. Throughout like the whole film, we see like Norman shows up. He's talking to War Daddy, and he's in his dress uniform. He's fresh out of boot camp, and he's clean. He's well kept. Like as the film gets closer and closer to the end, he gets dirtier and he gets dirtier. And he's like showing that like I don't know the exact timeline. I believe it's 2 or 3 days that the movie takes place over.
Yeah.
But it's like in that short amount of time, it's showing just how corrupted and destroyed like Norman's like morality has become. And I kind of see, and to contrast that, how I mentioned like War Daddy being this like younger version of Norman, and like about halfway through the movie, we get that scene in the German village, and War Daddy he's washing himself off in the water, and you get that kind of like close up shot of his freshly clean skin, because he was very dirty at the start of the film. It was kind of like that corruption and that loss of purity and empathy. And then you kind of like he goes to this German village. He washes himself off. He gets himself clean, and you kind of like you see the contrast between like now he's more what Norman used to be, and Norman is now what War Daddy used to be.
I like the idea where it's like we're not starting with like an inciting incident in this movie. This movie, like the story of our characters, has already been going on. Like we're not starting a new story. We're just joining it at a certain point.
Yes, I agree. But yeah, I think like overall, like the film is very well shot. Like there's not a single scene where I'm not engaged in the movie. Like I'm taking notes throughout the whole film, and I'm kind of like I'm having to tear myself away from the movie just to get these thoughts down, just so I don't lose them, because I'm so like inversed in the film. And I know Noah, you had mentioned that as well, that you were very engaged for the whole time. I don't know if you have a little bit more that you want to speak about on that.
Yeah, I thought. See, at times, like it's like with the pacing, it was pretty good for like the first half, and that was keeping me engaged. But I feel like it's like when you got to the German village, everything just grinded to a halt, and I get why, but it was kind of just. I feel like that scene could have been cut a little bit better. Some things could have been cut out a little bit to make the pacing a little bit better. Like I get why we slow down, but it kind of just grinded things really to a halt, and I don't think it was really for that good of a reason. I feel like that scene could have been executed better, just with the writing wise and what's going on with the characters and all that, and we can get more into that later, obviously. And but overall, I mean, pacing was usually pretty good throughout it. It's just when that one long scene in the village for so long there, that's when I got like a little bit checked out sometimes. But for the most part, was pretty engaged throughout it, and like the cinematography kept me engaged too with that, and overall story pacing a little bit all over the place sometimes, but overall, it was still an engaging film for the most part.
This was your first watch of this movie, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
So I do have a question then. So like as a first watch, because I know we have our group text about like what we're gonna do, how we're gonna record, stuff like that. But like for it being your first watch, like I know I hyped it up a lot, like, and it might not be fair, but like, what were your expectations going into it?
I thought it would be I thought it would be a pretty solid movie. Uh, but I don't like going into films with expectations though. But you guys hyping it up a bit, so I was expecting a pretty solid movie, and I did get that. But I mean, I feel like I was expecting a little bit more from it though. Maybe that went into me not liking it as much, but I still enjoyed it for sure though, and I'd still recommend it.
Yeah, and that's fair because I know I've sung my praises to this film hundreds of times already, so I know
Mhm.
like my description of it and my thoughts on it before the fact, before your watch, kind of probably skewed you away from giving it a little bit of a higher rating than you did, which we'll get into towards the end of this
Yeah.
episode. But like I completely agree. Like I read your own personal like review. Follow us on Letterbox, by the way. We'll get those links back to you in a later episode.
I'll
But
throw them in
you,
the description.
yeah, we'll throw the Letterbox links in the description. Follow us on Letterbox. You I read your review and I'm like kind of like I'm sitting here like yeah, I kind of agree. Like it didn't make me change my rating just because I
Yeah.
really do love this movie.
Yeah,
But like
you
I
can
can
look past
see,
those more.
yeah, I can
Mhm.
see why you would say certain like why you didn't like it as much as I do, just because like when I first saw this movie, I was a lot younger than I am now, so I kind of had this little bit of nostalgia towards it, where it's like, yeah, I can see its faults, but I don't really care because I like this movie.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, I could definitely get that. It's just for me, like especially on a first watch, I don't have any like memories to it, so I just kind of go in blind, and then I can get like a little bit more of an. I mean, I don't want to say objective analysis because I don't want to say my opinion is right. It's just more like my feelings aren't influenced by any past experiences or anything. So
Right, and I think that totally makes sense. Like you have a completely blind view on it, so like you are a little bit more objective towards it than I am. So like, and like you said, like you're not saying your opinion is correct, but like
yeah,
that's just your opinion as a first watcher with no prior like connection to the film.
I didn't I had barely heard of this film before, like you recommended it. So yeah. But I was just
All right.
intrigued by just like watching a new movie, and I don't really watch war movies too much, so I don't have like that much experience with that either. So that's also um, a thing that makes me, we'll just say objective because I can't find a better word. Again, not saying my opinion is right or anything.
Right. I understand what you're saying. But yeah,
Just
so
a more.
that kind of takes care of most of the cinematography and visuals, and we'll get a little bit more into it as we kind of go through the plot because there's a lot of more like important visuals that I have some notes on.
Yeah,
There's a
So
really cool part. Let me bring this up before we go into plot. There's a
no,
really cool
absolutely.
part at the end of the movie where Logan Lerman's character is laying under the tank, and
Yes.
you
Hold
see
that thought.
the
Hold that thought. Hold that thought. Because
okay.
I have a lot to say about that actually.
You
So
know what I'm
right
talking
before,
about?
I have some
yes,
thoughts too.
I know exactly
Okay.
what you're talking about. So right before I get into plot, I want to talk about the
Uh-huh.
score just for a little bit because I'm such a like movie music nerd, and like it's
Uh-huh.
very like the score of the movie overall. It's very subtle, and then you get to that very end, right when Norman's being taken away, he's going home, and you get that like that overture that like that main theme of the movie comes in, and it's like he is sitting here and he's like, this is all I know now. Like he's looking back at the
Mhm.
tank. He's not looking
Yeah,
forward. And like I'll have some
Mhm.
more thoughts about that in a little bit. But like I like me personally, I being such a movie music nerd, like I absolutely loved that final scene of the movie with the music. I don't know if you
Mhm.
guys have
that
any
was good.
thoughts on it, just because I know I probably have a little bit more to say about it just because of my background. But I'd
Mhm.
like, by all means, like if you have anything else to say, I would love to hear it.
I thought the score was decent. I feel like there were some times where I feel like, that didn't really need music. At times, like I really like when
Mhm.
music is not just like thrown around over there. And I'm not saying it's not thrown around just everywhere in this film, but there were some scenes where like, it doesn't really need it there. I like when music is used sparingly, but that's kind of
Mhm.
more my personal preference.
Right.
I'm more of a person with movies where if it's not a soundtrack like Guardians or the new Deadpool, where it uses like a lot of like actual songs with words and it's more of a score, I don't really notice it unless it's like either really good or really bad. And I feel like this was just like it was a good score, so I just kind of like didn't notice it because I'm like, oh, there's music there. It's nothing like crazy to write home about.
Right.
I mean, I listen to a lot of music and stuff, so that's just always something I'm going to pick up on. And plus, watching this, I watch this film with headphones, so I can like touch on like sound design, like sound effects and stuff, like just how many layers there are to it and stuff. So that was it was really great watching this with headphones on. The sound was a big part of the experience, especially with the sound effect and stuff. Like you're always hearing like some sort of gunfire in the background or something. And even subtly in like in like the German town or whatever, where it's just like you get the feeling that you're never really safe, like subconsciously, like most people wouldn't notice it, but there still is that feeling.
What you're saying is
they
I
were
should watch this
definitely
film with
not safe.
headphones.
What?
So what you're saying is I should watch this with headphones on next time?
Yeah.
You've seen this movie what, like 10 times, and you've never watched it with headphones?
Yeah, come
I
on now.
usually
Step
just throw it on the I usually just throw it on the TV. I'm not gonna plug in headphones to my TV.
Why not?
Yeah,
Just like sit 2 feet from your TV and just watch the movie.
I watched this completely legally on my laptop.
Yeah, he watched it on Amazon Prime, which is where it is.
Yeah,
It's on Amazon
exactly.
Prime.
Yeah, watched it on Amazon Prime.
There is
I
ads
actually
though. If
watched
you don't have a, there is ads.
I actually watched it on Netflix. I
Oh,
found it on Netflix today.
Oh, was it on Netflix?
Yeah, because I was having trouble getting it on
wait,
Amazon
really?
Prime because I couldn't log into it on my computer. So I'm like, fuck it, I'll check Netflix, and it was on Netflix.
Is that wait? Is it really on Netflix in the U.S.?
No, I don't have a VPN on my TV, so yeah, I believe it would be.
Okay, I never
Oh,
noticed that then.
I'll check real quick. I do have some. So we're gonna get into the plot here. We pretty much talked about that first like 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes of the film already. So we're kind of gonna skip past that a little bit.
Just go into
I'll be
what was.
damned. It is on Netflix. It's new to Netflix. That's why I didn't know.
Okay.
Oh,
New
did it literally
before
just come on? Oh, I guess it just came on like today. I guess.
Well, no, they added it for us. They knew we were going to be watching it.
Yeah,
So they added it.
they knew they
Yeah.
knew. So all right, well
Huh.
we gotta up our game up a
Okay.
little bit.
So
They're
yeah,
like
that's
the
why.
uncut version podcast is starting.
Yeah, we got to get this on Netflix for everybody because everybody here is Netflix.
Stat.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I definitely next time I watch it, probably be not until next year, and hoping it's still on there, but I'll probably watch it on Netflix next year, and I'll watch it with headphones next time.
That's a good point you made. You probably won't watch this movie again until next year. This is a hard watch.
Yes,
It's a good movie, but it's a hard watch.
Yeah,
so
this is not a movie you throw on like a Friday night where you're just trying to chill and have fun or whatever. No.
This is not a comfort
no,
movie.
Yeah,
no,
watch
and
it with
like
the whole family, guys.
so for me, and this might seem a little sadistic. So this is kind of a comfort movie for me, but just because like I watched this
Wow, you
movie,
take comfort in war? Wow, that's crazy.
I watched this
That's why
movie in theaters with my stepdad, and it's kind of like the earliest like memory I have of him being in my family. So it's like not so much comfort, but more just nostalgia and like having a good memory associated with the movie. So like yes, while it's not a comfort, like it's not a Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, it's not Avengers Infinity War. It's a tough movie to get through when you're just watching it. But like for me, like I feel like it might be a little bit easier for me just because I have those positive memories associated with the watching of the movie.
Yeah.
you have positive memories associated with Shia LaBeouf getting domed in the head.
Bro, the saddest part of the movie. That was my guy right there. Shout out to Bible.
No, for
Shout
real.
out Bible. So, like I said, we kind of got into the, like that first 15 to 20 minutes, like the characters getting introduced, and so we're not gonna beat a dead horse there. There's not much more we can say about it. There is like right after that, they're getting to that first like big tank battle and like gunfight of the whole movie. That's probably about half an hour into the movie. And there's this scene where Norman, so for those who don't know how a tank works, in this kind of scenario, they have the 5 crew members. They've got Bible and they've got Grady kind of working like the main big turret that shoots those giant rounds. And they have War Daddy as like the overall, like he's he's the scout kind of like he's looking for stuff. But they also have Michael Pena's character and Norman who are kind of like on those smaller front turrets. And so Norman's kind of doing his scans. Like while he is not tank trained, he's still army trained, so he knows he needs to be looking for threats. And he sees this like this German soldier, and he's young. He's like him. He hesitates to shoot at him, and it causes the death of like the lead tank. So Fury becomes the leader of like the tank platoon, but like they didn't start that way. And
For like
like
5 minutes until they're the only tank left.
yeah. Well, no. So like even like in this scene specifically, like the convoy is structured where the leader's at the front and like the lowest rankings are in the back. So Fury is number 2. So they like if something were to happen to number 1, they would be next in line. But Norman hesitates in killing this German soldier because he sees himself in this German soldier. He's like, this is just like me. He probably doesn't want to be here either. And this German soldier, he ends up like he shoots some sort of like rocket launcher, like World War II era rocket launcher at the lead tank crew, and they all die. Like all of them die. Like and one of them actually like so what happens is like the tank catches fire, the people inside are dead, and like the war daddy of their tank, the scout, he's on fire. He crawls out of the tank and he shoots himself in the head. Like he's like
Yeah, that's nuts.
and like that's also kind of showing like this like welcome to hell kind of like this dude would rather shoot himself in the head. Like he would rather kill himself than sit here and burn and suffer.
Yeah, and that's one of the powerful visuals that just like drive home the message of like the war is hell message and all that.
And then after the fact, like Norman physically cannot bring himself to fire the trigger. There's like after the main battle is over, a bunch of Germans are dead in front of them, and Michael Pena is telling him to shoot them, and he's sitting here like, but they're already dead. And like Michael Pena is like, are you a fucking doctor or something? And like he again like kind of driving home that point of like he's this like comedy, which I actually like. I really like that line. I did chuckle when it happened. Like despite the surrounding scenery, like it was a funny line to say in the middle of this. And then there's a scene where it kind of shows the differences in faith between Norman and Bible, where Bible is surrounded, like he's praying, like he is still showing like he is praying for his fallen brothers, but he's also surrounded by hundreds of Germans that he killed. So like it's kind of showing that difference of like one man, like because Norman's also praying, but he's praying by himself in the tank, kind of like praying for his life, whereas Bible's kind of like praying for the saving and the savior of these fallen brothers in arms. And then like right after that, like this scene, like it goes like this scene like starts and it doesn't end for like 15 minutes, and like right at the end of the scene. They capture the German, and War Daddy kind of like calls over to Norman. He's like, "Oh, hey Norman, come here!" And he hands Norman this revolver gun, and he turns the German around. He orders him to shoot, and then Norman just can't bring himself to do it. And like at least the way I kind of see it is like he calls back to that to seeing that other officer like shoot himself after being set on fire. He's begging to like for them to kill him instead of the German.
We were actually talking
then
about.
Yeah, go ahead.
We were talking about what our favorite scenes for the movie were. My favorite scene is actually a scene that happens right before all of that, when they're all just kind of like talking in the tank and they're all messing around with each other. And it seems like chill, and then just like in a second, it turns into like hell almost, you know?
Right, and like again, like what Noah brought up, like that's like that powerful visual of just like anything and everything will go wrong for this crew.
Yeah, like the shit hits the fan immediately.
But I don't know, like, so I don't know how you guys want to do this. Where we kind of like break it down scene by scene because I have a lot of notes and I don't want to like just ramble on for an hour.
Yeah, I mean, you could do it and then we could just bounce off each other.
Yeah, so we've got this scene here with like I've kind of shared my thoughts of like what I think is going on from like a story perspective, and like you kind of get that little hint of the score where it's kind of like that slow, that like monotonous, where like everyone knows like shit's gonna hit the fan.
Mhm.
But like I don't know what you have to say about this specific scene.
I mean, I don't, I don't know. I don't really have that many thoughts on it. I guess it was a cool scene.
Yeah, it was like it's really hitting that like it's pedal to the metal for this first scene. And I know you
Yeah.
do have some thoughts about the next scene I'm going to talk about. So I'll let you kind of go there. But Ryan, I don't know what else you would have to add. So I kind of like screwed up a little bit where I was kind of like summarizing the plot before I kind of like this is too much. Or I just decided on
Yeah, yeah.
certain talking points.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the scene before all the shooting, it's the scene where they're talking about if Hitler would fuck him for a chocolate bar, and that's just a really
Yeah,
funny scene.
That's the most
I
random conversation. It kind of reminds me of like some stuff in like Tarantino's work where like he'll write the most random conversation ever about like the craziest stuff.
yeah,
It's just some
Like in Pulp Fiction when they're at the diner.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's literally like a Pulp Fiction conversation, basically.
it's literally just like some shit you'd see some guys saying in an Instagram group chat.
You're not
It's,
wrong.
it,
You're
it,
not
uh,
wrong.
it, it would probably be like one of those like wild Instagram reels with like the text and like some wild photo or whatever.
Yeah, or like a photo of Flight with his tongue out.
My face when the boys fuck Hitler for a chocolate bar.
Jeez.
Or Hitler's face when you give him a chocolate bar.
Oh my gosh.
All right, we're gonna end that there because I don't wanna get canceled.
Yeah, not in the first episode. That's more of a second episode type of thing.
But yeah, so that's a lot of the thoughts I have on that first like not quite opening scene, but like the first real scene we get with all the characters.
Mhm.
You know, and almost immediately from there, we get a little exposition. Like War Daddy goes and he talks to this other guy, and he's like, "Oh, I know who you are. You need to convince me." And they go on like another mission, like right away. Kind of like, again, just like it's like one after another. Like they finish one thing, now they got to go do another.
Mhm.
And they go and they fight these Germans in this town, and like there's kids. Like this is another really powerful visual. Like the German soldiers, the
Mhm.
Nazis, they're hanging kids that don't
Mhm.
believe what they believe. Like these are children.
Yeah. And that was
And
another
Mhm.
shot that stood out for me cinematography wise.
yeah, like these are children, and they're like hanging them from gallows because they don't agree with Nazi beliefs. Like the oldest kid in this like group that I saw was probably like 12. Like how many of you are getting like are siding with political parties at 12 years old?
No, man, I
Mhm.
knew a lot about politics at 12. What are you talking about?
I actually had voted in my first election by the time I was 12, so I don't know what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
All right, calm down. You get what I'm saying. Like these are people that they don't know what's going on. Like they know that
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
at war. They know that
Mhm.
like the Germans are the good guys in their eyes, and like everyone else is the bad guys. But they don't know what's
Mhm.
going on. They don't know what's happening in the concentration camps. They don't know what's happening
Mhm.
on the fronts. Like they don't know anything. And like these
Mhm.
children are being hung because they don't agree.
Mhm. Which is crazy.
Yes, I agree. But again, that's
Controversial
one of
take.
the
Hanging children is not good.
but yeah, and then we kind of like it kind of calms down a little bit. Like
Guys,
I don't,
I have another controversial take. I think the
Uh-huh.
Nazis were wrong.
dude, I think you might be right.
Controversial take. They were the bad guys.
Controversial
I
take, guys. I don't think war is good.
yeah, war is bad. But like that scene, like this entire sequence kind of culminates in what I think Noah has decided is his least favorite scene of the movie, where they go, which I don't necessarily hate the take. Like it is one of my favorite scenes just because of the emotional weight of it all. But it is a very slow scene, and
Mhm.
so like they finish this battle, and War Daddy kind of like turns his crew to, you guys are all cleared off for the day. Like we'll get back to it in the morning. And
Mhm.
Norman and War Daddy, they go and they find these like German like aristocrats, like not quite like they're not military, but they're affiliated with the Nazis.
The German baddies.
They like Hitler.
And yeah, they were supporters. They were supporters, and he shows how they
They
all
were doing the
got.
salute and all. They were going to the rallies.
Yeah, they're all right. Calm down. Let's not start getting political in here.
They were real members of the community.
We might be cutting this part out.
Yeah, I think we might be cutting this part out. But so Norman takes or War Daddy takes Norman into this room with all these German aristocrats, and he's like all these Germans, they got belligerently drunk, and then they all shot themselves because they knew the fate that awaited them if they were to be captured.
Mhm.
But then, like right after that, so I think that they should have spent a little bit more time on that from from an emotional standpoint. And then right after that, they get into this really long sequence in this German woman and her daughter's like apartment complex.
Where they're getting turned.
Well, yeah, so they have
where Norman randomly decides to get freaky. Yeah, that was interesting.
yeah, like after being a man of God the entire movie.
Bro, no, because I remember one of the opening scenes where it's like Bible is like, yo, to Norman's like, yo, you're saved, and he's just like, I'm baptized, and like, as a Christian, I'm just like, sir, you're not saved by that.
Yeah,
and
you're like, that
and
means
then,
nothing.
and then, bro is like, and then Brad Pitt's trying to get him with this girl or whatever. I'm like, Norman, aren't you supposed to be a man of God? What are you doing, bro? What are you doing, bro? Come on now.
It was a very long scene. Like I like the scene for the emotional weight because there's a lot of certain things in this scene. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
I already mentioned the Brad Pitt War Daddy like quote unquote shower where he like washes his head off and he cleans himself of his sins, kind of.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a scene where like you see his scars of like even though like he has washed himself of his most recent sins, like those scars still cut deep. Like again, like I thought like that was another very powerful visual. Is like no matter how much he tries to forgive himself, those scars are still there.
Mm-hmm.
And then like there's another random part like Norman plays the piano and the younger German girl, she comes and sings with him. And I kind of like, yes, it's random, but it's like that retention of purity and innocence that Norman still has.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because yes, so earlier in this scene, like a bunch of the Nazi soldiers come out of this building on fire, and Norman shoots them to kind of like again cutting back to that scene of like he sees that commanding officer ahead of him shoot himself because he'd rather die quickly and painlessly. I don't know if painlessly is the right word, but but suffer there and be on fire and burned to death.
Yeah,
So
like
I feel like
relatively.
yeah, I see it as a kind of like a mercy thing for him, whereas like he'd rather see them go quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I still feel like he has that like retention of purity and that innocence.
Yeah, yeah.
And then like they get through the scene, Norman does his thing with the girl, and then like they're gonna they sit down to eat, and then the rest of the crew comes in, and like Michael Pena's character comes in, and he's acting all goofy.
And he's wearing a top
Just,
hat.
he's wearing a top hat.
He's just being himself from Ant-Man.
Yeah, and like they're recounting these stories of like, because like I believe one of the lines that John Bernthal's character says is, "We stormed those beaches a week after D-Day," which is obviously like calling back to the storming of Normandy to take France back from Germany.
Mm-hmm.
And like they're telling these stories, like all these stories of what War Daddy has done. So like even though despite all that like self-reflection and despite the cleansing of himself, like Fury Crew still knows like he is a killer. Like he will do whatever it takes to make sure that him and his crew are safe. And like that, like overall, like while yes, the pacing of this scene is kind of lacking, like it definitely did not need to be as long as it is. I think the symbology of the scene overall is like I think it's very important, especially when you consider the next scene. But before I get into that, obviously I want to let you guys share your thoughts.
Yeah, so
Yeah, no, you go.
So yeah, it was this is the part where it was kind of just like this is the part where kind of I wouldn't say lost me, but it was like yeah, I like you said with the pacing, it really grinds it to a halt. And also, I feel like the part where it's just like randomly, like, hey, let's get Norman with this random German girl. I thought that was a part that could be cut out, and that wasn't really that significant for me. And I mean, I get what you're saying with the emotions of the scene and all that, and there's some good stuff there. But I feel like the real problem for me when it gets to these slower character moments in general is just that I don't really connect much with the characters, and I
Mhm.
don't think they're like the most well written. I do that there are parts definitely that I like, but overall the characters weren't really resonating with me much, and that I can get more into that with like how the ending is and how it's supposed to be super impactful, but for me it wasn't that impactful. But we can get into that later, of course.
um, I feel like it's one of these things where it's like, yeah, these characters they're doing awful things, like technically, but like they also kind of have to, like
Right.
if they weren't like killing these Nazi soldiers, like they'd be dead. Like they'd kill them, no hesitation, So it's kind of like one of those things where it's like a necessary evil almost.
Right.
Mhm.
And then yeah, so right after that, like the morning comes and they have to roll out because they have another mission they have to do.
Mhm.
And like almost immediately, like before they even leave the village, there's a German ambush and they start bombing the village. And Norman looks over and he sees this apartment that he just spent the night in, like with this girl. Who I think, like, again, being a kid, he probably fell in love with this girl.
Mhm.
And he sees her dead body. She's bloody, and then like you see him, and he's like again going back to that like symbolism of filth, where like he is his skin is dirty, his nails are like they're full of dirt, and like it's just at his lowest point, and this is where he becomes war. Like this is where I think he becomes War Daddy. Like he's like,
Mhm.
this is me now. Like I will like, and he's kind of like
But yeah,
resembling that kind of like Bible where his character arc, or like he's like, I will take revenge. Like this is a woman that I fell in love with, and now I'm going to make sure that her death was not in vain.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like you see that, and I think in a later scene that comes up soon, where like their next battle or whatever, where he like starts taking like more joy, I guess, for lack of a better word, in killing these Nazis now and doing
Mhm.
it out of revenge, and it's kind of like abandoning his morals. I do say though, it was quite sudden for me. I feel like the arc could have been a little bit more gradual, but I get what they were going for, and I think it was still a decent arc.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Ryan, before you get it, I actually kind of disagree with you there about the being more gradual, because like I don't
Mhm.
think for the rest of the characters, I don't think it was gradual at all, because like I think a lot of them kind of saw something and they were like, I have to become a killer, otherwise I'm not going to survive, and the people that I love aren't going to survive. So like, I get what you're saying, where you were hoping it'd kind of be more like it like as time goes on, like he becomes more
Yeah,
and more of a killer. But I think like I disagree with you there, just because like a flip just switches. Like I need to do this, or I will die, and the people that I love will die.
Yeah,
I,
you have
I,
to
I
flip
I
a
can get that.
switch
Yeah,
super quick. Yeah, what do I have to say about this scene? I think it's super bold that they introduce a love interest like five and then kill her 5 minutes later. Like that's nuts. Like what other movie have you ever seen do that? Just dome a love interest with a building like 3 minutes after they introduce her.
I mean, I don't know if 3 minutes is true. I mean, if you ask Noah, that scene probably felt like 4 hours.
Yeah, that was actually the whole movie.
yeah. That was actually half the runtime.
And I think actually it might have been a decent chunk of the runtime.
It was probably like it might have been pushing 20 minutes. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, that's what I said in my notes. I said introducing a love interest and killing her 20 minutes later is insane.
It's
But
it's a bold decision for sure.
it is
Do I think
bold
it was the
decision.
best? I
it
mean,
was it was bold, and I like I said, I really enjoy like it's kind of that like switch for Norman to become like, this is how I will like revenge, like avenge her.
Mhm.
And then there's this scene. There's like this kind of like pseudo speech where it's just like a few lines from War Daddy. And he goes, I think he goes, ideals are pure and humanity is, or history is evil, or something along
Mhm.
those lines. Which again, another
Mhm.
very powerful line of dialogue. And
Mhm.
then like towards the end of the speech, he's like, even with the end of the war, more death will come, which is kind of that like it's like foreshadowing, like because we've all seen this movie, and I'm assuming if you're listening to this, you've also seen this movie.
Mhm.
We all know that at the end of this movie, everybody but Norman dies.
Mhm.
So he's like, more death will come, and like at the time, like on the first watch, you're probably thinking like maybe not so much Noah, because I know he said it was like a predictable plot, which it is. Like I'm not gonna
Mhm.
say that's not
Yeah,
true, but
they're not
like
reinventing the wheel.
as a first time viewer, you're probably thinking like, yeah, they're gonna kill more Nazis, more Americans are gonna die, but like this is our main crew, they're gonna make it out of this. But like I think that's really powerful because like it's the movie telling you these characters are not coming out of this alive.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
don't know. I
like
don't
they're
know.
very
I don't know.
disposable.
Yeah, like at the end of the day, like these aren't like this isn't Captain America here. Like these aren't super soldiers. These are men.
Mhm.
And
And the
then
craziest
no,
thing
I
is
don't.
like
No, go ahead. Sorry.
they all die, and then like everybody else just moves on. Like, you know what I mean?
Yes,
Like
yes.
they
And we'll get
mourn
into
them, but like they got to keep going.
we will get in. We will definitely get into that at the end of when we get toward the end of the movie.
Mhm.
But no, I don't know what you say about that about the speech. I know it's kind of like a random thing to bring up. It's more so just like a neat little detail
Mhm.
Of what?
about that like speech.
I guess sorry, kind of zoned out. I was like, I was looking at my notes real quick.
Yeah, I was yapping too much. But no, so
Yeah.
that's that speech at the end of like the ambush where they're kind of rolling out, where War Daddy's like more death will come, kind of foreshadowing the end of the movie. I know it's not much to talk about because it's kind of just like a neat little detail. But I don't know if you had any other thoughts you wanted to share about that whole ambush sequence.
Uh, that was a pretty good sequence. I think all the action sequences and all that, I thought they were all done very well and intense. And yeah, especially the final one, but we'll get to that, of course.
Oh yeah, we
Mhm.
will get to that.
We'll get to that scene.
And then Ryan, again, I don't know. Again, it's such a random thing to bring up. I don't know if you have anything else that you'd like to add about the ambush.
I mean, I so I haven't seen this movie since probably like my freshman year of high school, honestly, so probably like 5 years. So I honestly kind of forgot that it happened. I remembered something like that happened, but I forgot they domed the love interest that quick. So I was kind of like, oh, holy shit, that just happened.
Yeah, I mean, and that's fair. And then like immediately after that, we get into another. Basically, we go right into another battle, kind of
Mhm.
showing that like kind of like what you brought up, where like, hey, we got to move on, we got to go. And
Mhm.
it's kind of like I know we kind of talked to it a little bit, but it kind of like this next battle, they're fighting
Mhm.
this other German tank, and they're all losing, and Norman's kind of showing how he lost his empathy here, where and I in my notes I said shows how even the most incorruptible of men will do anything for those that they love.
Mhm. Yeah, it's the part where he's like shooting all the Nazis and he's like, fuck you, die.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like,
Mhm.
and he basically he becomes what like he was one of the crew now.
Mhm.
And then there's this line where they're all like sarcastically they're all like best job ever talking about being a tank operator, and Norman
Mhm.
kind
Yeah,
of like smiles and like it's kind of showing his arc as like this hesitant, he's timid, he's just this new private to the army, and now he's like he's a killer, like he will kill Germans without hesitation.
yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know if you guys have I don't know if you guys have anything that I was just waiting for you
I
guys
don't
to
know.
talk.
I was waiting
Yeah, I
for
think
someone else. 'Cause I don't have any thoughts.
Oh,
yeah,
and like
me,
again,
me
like
either.
it's a very like it's a very one dimensional scene. So like I don't expect
Uh-huh.
much thoughts to have, but like I
Pretty
do think it was
self-explanatory.
important. I do think it was an important scene because I obviously because I took notes on it.
Yeah.
And then I have my next kind of like main point was like right when they run over the landmine and they're kind of stuck where they're at, and they see like they go into Norman and Grady. They go into this that's like kind of like shack house type thing right off the road.
Mhm.
And like Grady, like he like despite being like the meanest and like basically the biggest dick to Norman the whole movie. Like he still like he looks at Norman. He's kind of like, you know what, this guy's kind of all right, and he apologizes for what he did, and um like he apologizes for what he's done pretty much the whole movie. I kind of like it was very kind of random, but it's again showing that kind of like, hey, Norman's becoming one of the crew now.
Yeah.
And then he has this line where he's like, "We're not good men, but you are," talking to Norman. And he's kind of like he's acknowledging the fact like, "Hey, we've done some messed up shit, but like you're still a good man."
Mhm.
And then like
The
no,
thing
go ahead.
the thing I realized is he doesn't say you're a good man. He says you might be. So it's like you could be a good man or you could have been a good man, but the rest of this war might change you. So it's not
Well,
like a guarantee you get out of this war a good man, you know?
you're right. You know what? Even now, think about it. I kind of just like because Grady's kind of this like deep South, got that thick accent. Like I thought it was
Mhm.
kind of more just like an inflection thing, like a dialogue. But like it is actually a really interesting dialogue choice because
Mhm.
he's gonna fight the rest of this war.
Yeah.
And then right at the end, right before they go back to the tank, he recognizes the fact that there is hardship in war, but the fact that they're tank operators in general, like they're super close to all the action. And
Mhm.
in my notes here, I say he recognizes the hardship of war, like generally speaking, but he recognizes it more as a tank operator because it makes a man partake
Mhm.
in actions deemed unspeakable. And like I said, reference like the quote unquote family meal that they had in the village where they're talking about all these things, and War Daddy's like, "Is this talk suitable for supper or something like that, or at the dinner table?"
Mhm.
And then like this whole scene, like it's all kind of one big scene before it gets to the final battle. So I'll kind of just keep going here, and then you guys can just intermittently come in, just because like there's so much to talk about just in this last 20 minutes of the movie that I kind of just
Mhm.
want to like keep it going. And then so they get back to the tank. War Daddy sends Norman off to kind of do some recon. Like he goes up to the tree line. Like there's kind of some jokes thrown in there. He's like, "Oh, can I grab my canteen?" He's like, "Yeah, you can grab your canteen," and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And then Norman sees this group of SS soldiers, like the elite of the German military,
Mhm.
and they're marching right towards them. So he runs back, tells everybody, and like all the crew are like, "Oh, well, we got time. Like we can get out of here." And then War Daddy's kind of like, "Nope, we're gonna stay. We're gonna fight." And I kind of like I'm tying that back to kind of like his early signs of PTSD because coming back from war is very hard. Like we see that a
Mhm.
lot in today's society.
Yeah.
It's very hard to adjust to life again after being at war for so long.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially his character. His character, I mean, clearly has been at war for a long time and hardened by it. So that's definitely
Yes.
Yeah,
just
he's like, "I've been to Africa, Belgium, Poland, France." He's been everywhere.
Yeah, like he has fought everywhere in this war, and like he has this line where he looks at Fury, like even though it's battered, it's broken, it won't move. He looks at it, he goes, "This is my home." And like that's such a
Mhm.
powerful line because like it shows like he's fought for so long he doesn't even remember life outside of being a tank operator.
Mhm.
And then they do this thing where they all like they're setting up for the battle. They're setting fire to stuff to make it look like they were already killed, so that they kind of just pass over
Mhm.
them, maybe. And I said, "Oh, it's one last time doing what they love," because again, I've seen this movie, so I knew they were all going to die.
Mhm.
And then they
Well,
have that same line from earlier, that best job ever. But everyone's kind of like they're happy about it now. Like they're all happy that they're here. Not happy, but they're grateful that the people they're with are with them.
mhm. That's the one thing I've never gotten about this movie. It's like, why stay, you know? Like I know it's like your home and your job,
that's
but like
something that
like at a certain point, your life is more valuable than a fucking tank. You know?
Yes, absolutely. Like, but we're saying that as
that
people
definitely
that aren't
confused me
at
first
war.
watch.
We're saying that as people that aren't at war, which is, I think, a very important distinction to make. Like, these people have been fighting for years. Like,
That is true.
they have done so much fighting. They don't know what they don't know what their life is outside of the fight.
But what about Norman though? Because Norman has been with these guys for like 2 or 3 days, and
At
now
most.
he just wants to die for them. So that's something that's a little bit confusing. I'm not saying like it's a major issue or anything. It's just something
Right.
that's I don't really get that much. I get why the others are though, because they've been together for a long time. They want to fight together. They want to die together. But Norman doesn't really make all that much sense because he's known them for like 2 days, and they haven't really been obviously that nice to him
Right.
at all. Thing.
And that is something, like, again, maybe that's Norman showing some early signs of PTSD as well, seeing that he just saw something that he loved die, and he's with people now that he knows will protect him. So maybe it's kind of like a Stockholm syndrome thing. I'm not entirely sure. I don't want to
Maybe
like
he's
dive
just
much into like trying to diagnose mental illness on
the first
characters that I know
episode.
nothing about. Yeah,
Yeah.
especially with characters that we don't know much about, because this is the only time we will ever see them. Like, we don't know about what happens before. We just, like what you said, Ryan. We're joining the story. We're not seeing what
Yeah, yeah.
happened.
hmm And
And
I
after
think
that,
there's sorry.
no. I was gonna move on, but if you have more to say, by all means.
I think there's a part where he's just like purely driving on hate at this moment towards like the Nazis, and maybe that's an influencing factor on it. That he just hates this group of people so much that he's like, "Fuck it, I'm staying."
Yeah, I mean that definitely could be it.
That could make
He,
sense.
But
he
yeah,
wanted that German baddie again, and they took that away from him. So he's swinging.
yeah. I mean, he's a little upset. And then, like, right after that, like, they're doing that best job ever. Like, they hand the bottle to Norman, and this is my favorite scene of the movie. Is when Norman finally becomes a true member of the crew. Is when he gets his call sign, which is Machine,
Mm-hmm.
to reference the fact that he just wants to kill Germans.
Mm-hmm.
And it's showing, like, it's the end of his arc, being a timid, well mannered man to like he's now battered. He's
Mm-hmm.
gritty. He wants to kill Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
And then right after that, it gets right into the fight. And I know you guys have a lot to say about that. I don't have much to say about it that I haven't said already. So I'll kind of let you guys take the reins here.
Yeah, I'm gonna let Noah go on this one first because I know this is where his favorite part of the movie is.
Yeah, it's just really a lot of it comes down to the visuals, which is just that's something I really love in film is the visuals, cinematography, all that. One of my favorite parts, and this is, I mean, the cinematography throughout the whole thing is great, like I said, but it's really the lighting that sells it here, and I love it with all like the different elements with like the smoke and stuff, and then the fire, and just kind of how the orange lighting is incorporated into the scene. And it's just overall a really intense scene, and it's kind of crazy how this one tank is able to kind of hold off this whole army of soldiers for a while, up until obviously they do lose. But that was a great scene, and it goes on for a long time. But I really like all the battle scenes in this are great, but especially that one. I felt the intensity of that one. The music was good in it, and I would think a lot of the different things that they did throughout it, choreography wise, kind of was pretty good, and sold it on its intensity. Just this one group of 5 people in this tank going against an entire army, I thought was a pretty cool concept.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's really cool how all of these characters, except no, I guess they all do. They all die really fucking brutally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, yeah.
it's
Well,
nuts.
but Bible literally just like goes up to like say something to War Daddy real quick, and then boom, he just gets shot, like beamed right in the head.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I think
then
he was trying to.
I
I think he
don't
was trying to
remember
throw him a
if it
grenade.
was. Yeah, he was trying to give him some help, or he was
Yeah,
trying to do
Yeah.
something. I don't. Again, it happened. Everything happened in this scene so quick. It's kind of hard
yeah,
to keep track of
yeah.
everything,
He just
which
kind of
is a,
took his head up, but
yeah. It's not a knock on the scene. It's still a fantastic scene. It's just something I kind of
Yeah.
noticed.
Uh huh. I think it
There's
adds to it. honestly.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Like even simply just like sticking your head up for a moment and boom, you can die just like that. That just shows how like things can change so quickly in war, and you can lose your life just like that.
Yeah, there's that scene too. I don't remember if it was John Bernthal or Michael Pena's character, but they shot that same rocket launcher type weapon from very early in the movie, and it goes through and like it pretty much slices him in half.
Yeah, I think that's John
Oh yeah.
Bernthal. Because Michael Pena, he's going to throw the grenade and he gets shot, and then he lays on it so it doesn't blow up the rest of the tank.
Oh, that's right. I do. Yep, I do
Yeah.
remember that now.
Okay,
Again,
so
like
That's the
that's
sir,
one.
he
going back
actually
to what
did
Noah
something.
said.
He did
Going back
something.
to what Noah said, it's hard to remember anything he did in the movie.
That's
Hey,
the one thing I remember.
yeah. Now I remember that you've mentioned it, so there we go. That is the one thing that Michael Pena's character does. Congratulations to him.
The
I
one thing
still
he
don't
does
know
is
his name.
die.
I still don't know his name.
All right, we're gonna look this up. What is his name?
Yeah. So has everyone said pretty much everything they want about that? Because there is this final scene that I have a lot to say about that. I would really love to talk about.
Gordo. That's
I
his
think we
name.
got it.
Gordo.
Gordo Garcia.
Gordo. All right. So
Wait,
Gordo,
Also,
shout out to you,
shout
Gordo.
out,
no,
shout out Gordo.
not shout out to you, Gordo. I don't remember you exist.
No,
Rest in peace, Gordo.
Shout out to Lane on the grenade.
Yeah,
Um.
okay, yeah. That was good.
Shout out to him for that.
Okay.
Shout out for
Last.
your one contribution to the movie, dying.
Hey, don't forget the top hat.
That's right. My mistake.
Um. Also, last off-topic thing before we get to the last scene, which I think both of us do want to talk about. Jason Isaacs, he plays that sergeant that War Daddy's talking to. That's who it is.
The one like they're looking over the maps and all that.
Yeah, that's Jason Isaacs.
Oh, yep. I see it in my head now. All right, so we're gonna get into this last scene here because we've already talked about the final scene. Well, when we talked about the score of the movie, so we're not going to get much into that. But this final scene where War Daddy and Norman they're here, they're talking. War Daddy's about to die. The Germans are advancing, but Norman has an exit. He can get out through the bottom of the tank, right?
Yep.
There's this little hole in the ground for him to hide in, and like War Daddy's giving this this eulogy basically like about his life. And to be completely honest, like I'm like even seeing this movie so many times, seeing that full scene puts me in shock, and it's hard. I still can't remember what the hell he says at the end there, other than the fact that he's telling him to get out of the damn tank.
Yeah.
And then so the Germans are advancing. They drop these 2 or 3 grenades through the top hatch, and Norman like he gets in this hole. He digs himself a little like shelter. The Germans are advancing. Everybody's dead except for him. And this young German SS soldier looks under the tank and he sees Norman. And it kind of brought me back to that beginning scene of the movie where Norman hesitated to kill that German. And it's like I'm seeing Norman in this German's eyes, or like he doesn't want to be here either. So like what Norman
Yeah.
thought was that one guy, like it really was this guy.
Is that the thing you thought I was gonna bring up earlier?
That is what I thought you were going to bring up.
There's actually a different thing that I thought of where it's a little bit after that, where after he falls asleep and he wakes back up, you see the hoofs of a white horse walking by, almost reminiscent
Oh,
the beginning of
oh,
the
that is
movie.
true.
So it's kind of like the move, like even though this set of people died, this movie's gonna happen over and over again until the war ends. Like different variations on the same story of like sacrifice and like innocence being lost, basically.
That is a fantastic take.
Thank you. I try.
And then you get to that final part right before Norman gets taken away, where like he takes the same revolver from earlier too. Like the thing I love most about this scene, it's like it's calling back from things that happened earlier.
Yeah.
He takes this revolver, and like you can see, even the revolver is dirtier now. Like you can see, like he's pointing it at the top hatch, and I don't remember if it was. Now that you mention, I think it might be Jason Isaac's character that comes and rescues them, basically.
I think it might
And
be.
like he's pointing it at him, and Jason Isaac's kind of like, "Oh, easy there, buddy. We're on the same side." And like they take him away. His story's over. The movie's over. But like, I just love how they called back to things that happened earlier, kind of showing you that, kind of like what you said, where like this story is going to continue to happen.
Mm-hmm. And like, even like, so I wouldn't say this story had a happy ending, but it had a relatively happy ending because Norman survived.
It
And
was
like,
happy
there's
for
gonna
Norman. Like it was
yeah,
happy
Yeah, just for him.
for him living, basically. Like other than that, like
yeah,
those were his brothers that he saw all of them die.
mhm.
Yeah.
And
And like
I think that's
I
a really
think
good point.
before this, there's one thing that I just thought of. So like
Yeah,
that scene of like where the guy that Norman replaced, like his like face was like on the tank that he was supposed to be cleaning.
yeah,
And like
Yeah.
he runs out of the tank, he's throwing up, and he sees all these people that he has grown to become family with.
mhm.
That like he saw them all brutally die, and he doesn't even react to it, other than like anger rather than disgust.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think a huge thing is like, so this movie takes place what, the span of like 3 days.
Yeah.
Um,
Just
I think
about,
it
yeah.
shows. I think it shows like how quickly you can like when your life's on the line, how quickly you can become like brothers with somebody. You know, like it only took 2 days, and they're like brothers now, and that's what's gonna
Yeah,
happen when your life's on the
Yeah.
line.
yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much all the thoughts I had about specific points. If there's
In the
anything else that you
plot, yeah.
guys, yeah, if you guys have anything else, by all means, I'll see if I can come up with something on the fly.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't really think I have anything. So if you do,
I think we covered just about everything.
So yeah, if we want to get into kind of final overall thoughts, like I know I've sung my praises.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah. So can we get into
if
a
we're
rating?
ranking it, yeah, let's get into the ratings now. We're gonna rate them out of 5. Like for
Mhm.
me, this is a 5 out of 5. I like obviously it's
Uh-huh.
not a perfect movie, but I just have so much love for this movie. I think it's a fantastic story. Whether it's like it's very cookie cutter, yes, but I just love it. I think
Yeah.
I would give it a 5 out of 5.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
Wait, hold on. Okay.
sorry, you
I'll
go.
go.
Go ahead, Noah.
Okay. So I give it a 3.5 overall. I found it pretty enjoyable, but there were some moments that I didn't like. There's moments that I either like really love or stuff that I'm like kind of indifferent about, and I don't find it to be the most consistent film for me. But overall, it comes together to be a pretty enjoyable watch. But there are definitely the problems I have with it, and I can't really look past it as much. But I do understand why somebody would completely love this film, and for me, just like it. It's cool. Probably not gonna watch it again anytime really that soon, but it's pretty solid.
Yeah, I'll probably I give this movie 4 out of 5. So I'm kind of in between you two, really. I like it more than Noah does, but I definitely don't like it as much as you do, Nate. I think it's a really good movie. I don't want to say it's a fun time because it's not a fun time. It's a very
No,
depressing and
no.
sad time.
That is not the right term, but I get what you're saying.
It's a summer blockbuster for the whole family.
Yep. Bring your kids.
But yeah, it's a really enjoyable time. Very well acted, great cast, great pacing for the most part, except when they're hitting on the German baddies, then it slows down a little bit. But yeah, I give this movie a 4 out of 5. I did really enjoy it.
I mean, yeah, I mean, yeah, this was my week. I suggested this movie. Um, again, I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys all have to say. Obviously, I know leave any last minute thoughts that maybe we miss something as a crew. I know we're human. We're not perfect. We're gonna miss things as well. So if you have anything else you'd like to add, by all means,
Yeah.
drop it in the comment section. We're gonna start up some social media for this podcast, so tune in for that.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, don't forget to follow us all on Letterboxd. Noah and I are pretty
Mhm.
active on it. Ryan's gonna start getting more active on it. Yeah, any closing thoughts for everybody?
I thought this.
That's about everything. My fault.
Sorry,
Go
what's up,
on.
Noah?
Go on. Go on. Go on. Go on.
No, I thought this went really well as a first episode. it's a good movie to throw us into the fire. Like Norman gets thrown into the fire. But yeah,
Oh yeah, that's actually a really good comparison. And of course, if you guys have any sort of suggestions for us, by all means, we'll listen.
we might listen. If it's Ant-Man Quantumania, we won't listen. But,
If your movie sucks, we won't listen. Actually, you
No,
know what? We
we'll
do need to
listen.
do bad movies sometimes.
We'll
Like
we'll listen. We'll just rip your movie to shreds.
yeah. Like we'll probably do mostly good movies, obviously, because we want to actually watch them. But the but it would be fun to do some bad movies and just rip a movie to shreds. That would be fun in the future. But definitely
That'd be a
like for the first few for the first few episodes, it would be it's probably good to stick to some really good movies.
we can do like a shitty movie a month because there's 3 of us, so
Yeah.
we can go in a circle. I'll pick a good movie, and then we'll collectively pick a shitty movie for the 4th week of the month.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Noah, I know you were gonna say something, and Ryan kind of rudely cut you off there. I'm
No,
just kidding.
all I was gonna be like was like, oh yeah, I think we covered just about everything. That's all I was gonna do.
Yeah, I mean, again, like Noah had mentioned in his letterbox review, it's a very simple movie. Which again, not a knock on the movie. Like the story is very simple. It's a fantastic movie. It is a good movie. It is simple. It's a simple story. There's not much more to cover that we haven't already. But again, any final thoughts that you guys might have as an audience, by all means, share that with us, and we'll obviously we'll read the comments. We'll reply if we can.
I think we'll be able to. I don't think we'll get such an overwhelming amount of comments on this.
No,
I mean,
we're gonna get 1,000 comments. Just trust me.
You never know. We might blow up again.
Hey.
Like we'll yeah. I really enjoyed doing this with you guys.
No,
I can't wait to pick our next movie and see what we're gonna do. Yeah, like I said, we all love to talk movies. So if any of you just want to talk movies anytime, by all means, like hit us up.
Yeah.
We're not gonna link our social medias or anything, but not yet at least.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we love to talk movies. So by all means, maybe we'll have like a special guest once in a while we can bring in. I know our good buddy Gabe was going to join us for this episode. Unfortunately, he couldn't. But yeah, that's all. That's pretty much all I've got.
Gotta find a thought here. So I really hope this podcast blows up like Michael Pina's character at the end.
I was gonna say that.
Damn. No, this is really fun. Whether it blows up or not, we're going to continue to do this. This is just a good time for all of us. We're not really doing this to make money. We're just doing this because it's a good time. The money's just if we do make any, it's just a nice benefit.
Exactly. Do we have on the more like technical side of anything? Do we have a schedule yet for this, or are we just gonna kind of hammer that out as we go?
I think that'll come with time. I know we're recording this episode on a Thursday. If all goes well, hopefully we'll have it out by tomorrow. So maybe Fridays. Like Fridays are a good time. It's a good time for people to watch movies. But yeah, we'll figure that out as we go along. Obviously, like Noah, I know you're pretty good with scheduling stuff. Ryan, you've been doing this YouTube / podcast thing for a bit, so you know a little bit more than me. I'm kind of new to all this, so
yeah,
I'm gonna lean on you guys here for a little bit, and then before I get the reins of it.
Yep. All right, I think
mean,
that's everything for today, guys.
Yeah. Thank you guys for listening in. Again, podcast name the Uncut version. Yeah, I mean, see you guys in the next one.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next week. Hope you all have a great day.